Hello everyone, and welcome back to the state of the world. I thought I'd start today with a few updates. Let's just get to the main one. I didn't win the lottery again. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen one day. I'm sure of it. Just as I'm sure that one day I'll also have made millions off of cryptocurrencies, but it just hasn't happened yet. Yeah, very busy last week. For someone who's unemployed, involuntarily, I should add, there just seems to be so much going on that needs to get done. It makes it harder and harder to just sit down and empty these thoughts out of my head and load them up to YouTube. But yeah, I just don't know where the time's going at the moment. It's just too much going on. Unemployed man starts YouTube channel, shocker, but has lots going on. One thing from last week, something I haven't touched on, just something more for you to know about me. Back in April, I started a container garden in the out the back there. I've been looking forward to. I've never been a gardener. It's never appealed to me. And then suddenly, you get all this time on your hands, and I thought I'd give it a go. I watched all the YouTube channels and some great ones out there. And I started, the first crop I planted was potatoes. I thought, well, we just eat so many potatoes. And this was about 3 weeks before we started the keto diet. So that was obviously not a good decision, but, didn't see that coming. But really, this luscious green plant out on the table, a big container. It was just a cheap tub I'd got from Aldi. And I was really looking forward, even though I didn't, I'm going to stick with the diet, but for going to get this big crop of King Edward potatoes, and then I thought it'd be about another 2 or 3 weeks till they'd be ready, but the leaves started to go brown a week ago, and I thought that's the sign I saw on the video. So at the weekend, dumped them into the wheelbarrow, brand new wheelbarrow, and very disappointed. It seems I got the root rot, so I didn't get a good crop at all. In fact, I had some handful of baby potatoes, and that was it. But yeah, so I've got so that was disappointing. But I've got some carrots. I've got some went more keto friendly after a while. I do an hour or two a week and just put some new stuff out. Got the carrots out there. One lot due soon. Got some broccoli started, got some garlic planted, trying some runner beans, not quite sure if they're keto friendly or not. Lots of salad, spinach. Not having much luck with the basil and the coriander. Hasn't really taken. I've got a little bit going now, but that's taken a few months to just get a couple of shoots going on those. Anyway, the gardening is not working, but it's trial and error, and I'm having a bit of fun learning along the way. But how long can you garden for before you actually put something on the plate, I wonder. Speaking of keto, went back to the tried and trusted curries for the weekend. Oh, blimey, they're good. They're really good. I think I might put those links back in the description today. If you haven't tried them, go try them. Man, you don't need to be on keto. Wonderful. £19 off. Progress has slowed, but it's still going in the right direction. So it's always nice when you see you're losing weight in the first few weeks and then it slows off, but you just got to stick with it, and it's working for me anyway. So keeping on with that. The news for me is a Man United fan over the weekend. Aaron Wan-Bissaka finally, after weeks and weeks of speculation, signed for Manchester United. The joke being Wan-Bissaka is 50 million. Does that make two Bissaka 100 million? Don't groan. It's not my joke. Got it off Twitter. But yeah, hopefully United get some more deals done this week. We've got to get Bruno Fernandes in. We've got to get either Harry Maguire or Koulibaly in. And then I think we still need probably at least another midfielder and a right winger. And I would go for a second centre half there as well. Get someone else in, and then we've got to start getting some of these players out. And I don't know if Lukaku's going or not. If Inter can afford him, I don't think it's really worked out with Lukaku, but I think he's a try. I saw him celebrate at the end of last season. I forget who we were playing, and he was over the moon. And I saw a report that he's back in training today, and he didn't have to come back straight away because he was on the international tour and he could duties a few weeks ago, and he could have had a bit more. I like this guy's attitude. He just gets his head down. So yeah, I think it was a disappointing season, but I think he's got the mental steel. I don't know. I wouldn't be overly upset if he stayed, but I know he's a bit. It's not quite fits the pattern of play. But if the mentality's right, he can be coached maybe. Anyway, but yeah, so we got to get the signings moving. Hashtag pull your socks up, Ed. Yeah, and then main point for today, Game of Thrones. So huge fan. Like a lot of people, I think, really invested a lot of time, emotion into the show. I think it was 8 years from season, or 9 years, or whatever it was, from seasons 1 to 7, 8 years, I guess, and then they had the extra year to get the last season going. And like many people, it just fell flat for me. It just didn't fit right. The last series. Now, I love the show. I'm not knocking anyone. I'm not that kind of guy. I don't want to put nasty things out there. But I was disappointed. And I know a lot of other people were, and a lot of other people say, hey, it was great. But for my money, I think it was just, if I was a fly on the wall, I think for so many years they prided themselves on being doing things that people said they just didn't see it coming, and I think there was too much of that in the final series. I think they just wanted to swerve everyone. That maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I think that it was too much swerving and not enough payoff. That's in a nutshell how I felt. So what I did was just for my own edification, perhaps for your entertainment, I actually jotted down some notes last night, and I was thinking, how would I bullet point out what I would have done different, and how would I have done season 8? So here we go. This is what I would have done different. So generally, I think we started the battle for Winterfell, and I think the first thing is you just got to bring the lighting up a little bit. I was watching on a TV. It's only about 2 years old, and I was really struggling to see it. This is perhaps non-plot line change, but just more style. I was more worried about what I was missing than what I could see. So just bring it up a touch, just so it's a bit more, a bit clearer. But other than that, plot line wise, so I would change the Battle for Winterfell. I like the big scale of it. I like the style of it from what I could see. But I think the first thing I would have changed is when the Night King raises the dead and the crypt under Winterfell and the dead rise down there as well. I think I would have just done a bit of a plot change there, and I would have had maybe a storyline where maybe built up to it a little more. I should say, but I haven't read the book, so don't take me as someone who's taking something from the books. I only watched the TV show. But I thought it'd be an interesting swerve if, when they raised the dead in the crypts, if maybe the Stark family, there was, because there's some connection there to the Night King. I know I've seen from fan channels on YouTube. Maybe the Stark family don't align in the dead realm with the Night King, and maybe we could have had Ned Stark's last battle, and all the Stark men raised from the crypt, and then suddenly the living have these additional troops that in that spur of the moment, and I think a lot of people would have got a kick out of seeing Sean being head attached, obviously, swinging a sword again. But I would have had, Khaleesi. I know she lost a dragon later on. I would have had Khaleesi lose one of the dragons, not Drogon, the other one, in this battle. And I would have had it be an action where she falls to the floor, and she's right at the feet of the Night King. And then I think that's where Ser Jorah and a lot of the key characters would have to kind of rein in and come to her aid, and that's how I picture it. She's in that moment of peril, and the Night King's kind of there, and that she's surrounded. But maybe Ser Jorah comes battling in, and then Jon, and then all the others, and maybe sort of mirror the scene that from Bran's recollection of the time that Ned arrived when Jon was born, and he had to fight through those troops and that swordsman, and maybe have it like reverse the parallel that here's the Night King now. He's the great swordsman, and he's holding them all off. And Arya joins in, and the Hound joins in, and they just can't get round him. But then the dead surround them, and then there's this battle directly with the Night King. And I would have written it somehow that through the battle, they're all getting knocked over. This is where I'd kill Ser Jorah, saving Khaleesi, taking the blow perhaps for instead of her. And then somewhere in the battle, the action's going on, and you just forget Khaleesi's on the ground maybe, and she comes up from behind at that crucial moment and runs the dagger through. But ultimately, I'd have had Khaleesi seeing off the Night King. At that point of the story, and I'd probably there was a lot of people died in the battle. Most of those it's fine, keep it as it is. I think the only one I wouldn't have killed at that point was Theon, and we'll come back to Theon in a minute. So there, Khaleesi runs the dagger through, and the undead fall. Then you go to the next episode. You've got the celebrations, and it's all hail Daenerys, and she's won over Sansa and Arya, and there's still the sense that they would have preferred Jon. They were lying behind Jon, but they understand now why he puts Daenerys up on this pedestal and why he's sworn allegiance to her. And then in the height of the celebrations and the talk of everything else, this is when we have another mirroring, and Khaleesi is in the room. She's at the front, and they're all celebrating and singing her name. But that's when the poison kicks in. And Daenerys is poisoned, and then they quickly work out it was one of Varys's little birds, one of his little spy children. So it's pretty quick for Jon. They find Varys scurrying away, but they find him, they bring him back, and in front of everyone, Jon, in a fit of anger, beheads Varys in front of everyone. Big stuff. But then, of course, in the drama, Jaime, he sees how angry Jon is. He knows what's coming. He knows he's got to turn his anger to someone. So Jaime flees while no one's looking. He gets on his horse and he heads back to King's Landing. He's worried that Jon's going to take this army and bring it down now, and it's Cersei that's next. But he misses Bronn. Bronn obviously was on his way up. So at some point then you get the meeting with Bronn and Tyrion, and Bronn brings the crossbow, and he says, "Hey, I'm on a job here. Where's your brother?" And Tyrion does what Tyrion does best. He talks him down. He says, "Hey, this army, it's going to head for King's Landing, and in a few weeks, we're back on top. Do you really want to be on the wrong side of that?" So he promises him Highgarden, and he says, "Look, go back, do what you need to do, but ring the bells." So when Jon brings this army, and he's got a dragon still, right? So when he brings this army, it's you go ring the bells, signal the surrender. Don't let his anger overflow. If Cersei won't surrender, the people surrender, hand the town over. That's your job, and if you do that, you get Highgarden. So the army set off, but Jon's still at the back because he's going to go down on the dragon. So the armies all head down, and they're on their way down. But the only other person that hangs back is Brienne, and this is the point where I think, and I take from the story and I twist it, but I think it's Jon then that knights Brienne and says, "Look, I'm charging you again with Sansa's and Winterfell's protection." And then we might get that, a similar nice touching scene. She's earned this, this knighting, and but she's now, the war, the protector, if you like. While he's down doing what he needs to do. Anyway, so the army arrives at King's Landing, and then the battle's about to commence, and you put Jon in place of Khaleesi from the show. He runs down the Iron Fleet. They burn it to shreds. He takes out the dragon-sized crossbows on the wall, and it's a real demonstration of the firepower of this dragon that this army cannot overcome. And then Theon's survived to this point. He's on a boat. He lands to the shore, and it's here that he and Euron get into their fight. So almost switching Jaime and Theon there for that battle on the beach. And of course Euron mocks him, and they have a good battle. And Theon, this is where he shows his courage that's been lacking from before, but he's doing it for his sister. But Euron ultimately wins and runs him through, and he leaves him for dead. And Euron then regroups back into the Red Keep and goes to find Cersei and Jaime. So then you see the peasants, they're in fear in King's Landing, so Jon's wiped out the army outside the gates and on top of the walls, and he lands on the walls and he signals loudly. He says, surrender now or you'll burn. So, then we see Bronn, he's back there already. He has to fight his way up to the bell, and he makes it. And, he starts ringing the bell. So the army move in, and they come through the gates, and there's no resistance. This is where King's Landing falls to Jon's army, to Daenerys' former army, and the dragons. So now the finale is really the race to the Red Keep, to Euron, to Jaime, to Cersei. So Yara then lands on the beach, and she finds Theon, and in his last words he apologises, and then he slips away, and we get perhaps the redemption story for Theon there, and that relationship with Yara. So Yara kind of heads the same route as Euron had. And then Jon, makes his way to the gates. We've got Arya and the Hound also, they've made their route down, and they all, meet in the throne room, and they'll come in perhaps from different doors. So Euron, will leg it, he'll run, and then you get the Yara, Euron, cliffhanger, their sword fight. And ultimately, obviously, Yara will be victorious, and she'll claim her victory and her revenge there. Jaime, I picture then drawing his sword, and he'll taunt Jon Snow about wanting to, how he wanted to beat Ned in a sword fight, how he wanted to, he was denied though, and how he wanted to squash Robb Stark on the battlefield, but he was denied. And then, he'll pull his sword, and he'll want to taunt Jon to be as angry as possible. So he might even say, "Hey, I even pushed your brother from the window, but he didn't die either. So I'm gonna have to make up for it. I'm gonna gut Ned Stark's bastard. That's how I'm gonna make up for this. I've been waiting for this for all these years." And I think this is where Jon turns around and says, "I was raised Ned Stark's bastard, but by blood I'm Rhaegar Targaryen." And I'm going to claim that Iron Throne, and make that declaration. So then, Jaime and Jon get into a bit of sword fight. I might have to go off to the side, away from the throne room a little bit. But we have the epic scene there, and obviously, Jon will win through on that in the end. But then, in the throne room, what you're left with is the Hound and Arya with Cersei, the Mountain, and Qui-Gon. I quite like the way they knocked off Qui-Gon in the show, so perhaps the Mountain similarly dispatches of Qui-Gon quickly and brutally, and then I see the Hound and the Mountain battling in this epic kind of wrestling match. It's not graceful sword fight, but just brutal, like brothers. And then the way I picture is Arya, Cersei behind the throne, peeking out in fear and scared, and Arya just standing in the middle of the throne room, just staring at her. Just locked in, letting the Hound and the Mountain do battle. Arya just staring there at her target, Cersei, and waiting for that revenge. Anyway, so the Mountain and the Hounds, they get into it, and the Mountain, obviously, he gets the upper hand at some point, and just as he's about to finish the Hound, this is when Arya starts to walk towards Cersei, and that draws the Mountain's attention because his oath or whatever, and that's the point where he's just distracted long enough. That he's distracted long enough that the Hound can get back in and deliver the lethal blow. So the Mountain's dead, Jon's dead, Qui-Gon's dead, Euron's dead. It's just Cersei now. So Cersei from behind the throne, seeing the Mountain dispatched. Perhaps dispatched. Maybe we need to, maybe the poetic justice is there's a fireplace and the Hound has to burn him, because he's the Walking Dead. But the Hound ultimately gets his redemption as well. And then Cersei runs, and she runs into that map room that we've seen her walking over a number of times, and it's Arya that follows. The Hound's hurt, and Jon's just dispatched Jaime's in the other room or whatever. But so Arya makes chase, and she follows Cersei, and when she gets to the map room, Cersei's she's not run any further now. She's looking back, and then Cersei starts taunting her, and then suddenly from out behind the pillar comes a voice, and I think it was something like, he says, "What do we say to death?" And then Arya says, "Not today," and out steps Syrio Forel, the swordsman from Series 1 that trained Arya. And she says, "But I thought you were dead." And then Sirio's face comes off, and the reveal is his Jagging Hagar. And Cersei's been playing Arya all this time, following her, and just, she was under the spell. There's always been someone watching her from these faceless people. So it's now Arya has to engage with Jagging Hagar. And they get into this big sword fight, and this is one at a time. Jon and Yara and the Hounds. They now turn their attention to Cersei. He'll arrive one at a time, but of course he's the greatest swordsman in the land. So the battle ensues, and eventually, I think fitting if it's Jon that runs him through, because you might say Arya poetically, but I see Jon then. It's like, hey, I'm the swordsman of the land now. I'm the one that runs you through. So then, they circle Cersei. Arya gets up off the floor because she's been brushed away or whatever, and she just, without saying a word, she just walks up to Cersei and runs the needle through her heart, and you see perhaps Cersei from behind, and she just falls to the ground. So that's it. The Iron Throne is taken. In the final scenes, I think you see Jon proclaimed king, and we could mirror the TV show, and you see the small council, and you've got Sir Davos and Tyrion and Samwell, Bronn and probably Brienne all on the council there. And then I see the vision of they've formed this first council, and they apprise him of the first issue, and that's that the Warden of the North, Sansa. She wishes to split the Seven Kingdoms. She claims the North must be independent, and she will not bow the knee. Oh, what a first problem for King Jon, hey? So they meet face to face, and it's tense. And then Jon says, "Look, do you not trust me? You're not aware of the message it sends to the other parts of the kingdom." And she says, "Look, I love you, but this is about the North. This is about the Stark family." And they have this, this tete-a-tete, this confrontation, and Jon would have agreed. Claimed, accepted the title of King of the North himself at one point. And so then this is when the cogs in Tyrion's brain kind of turn over, and he says, "Hey, look, there is one option here, and there's one thing that's befitting of a king that you can do, particularly a Targaryen king." And so Tyrion arranges for Jon to marry Sansa so that they can reunite the North to the rest of the kingdoms. And fitting for the Targaryen to take his sister bride, but also, Sansa gets her reward, the little girl that wanted to be queen. And then you've probably got the fade out, the music going, and you see the little ginger children. He's reunited with his direwolves, and the little litter of direwolves, and the king and the kingdom is at peace, and everything is all right in the world of Game of Thrones. And there you have it. That's how I would, in retrospect, and some of those ideas I had before Series 8, to be fair, but that's how I would have liked to have seen it going. Maybe, what can I say? If only, hey? Maybe we get a GoFundMe on we can come up with a few 100 million and remake Series 8. In fairness, that's not a very nice sentiment. All the actors did really well, and it just fell short. It's a little disappointing, but overall, over the course of the years. I did enjoy it. I'm not been reading too much lately, but maybe if there's George Martin goes off a different way with the book conclusion, I might at some point in the future get into those. But yeah, thank you very much for listening. If you liked today's video, please give me a like and a subscribe, and let me know in the comments or on Twitter what you would have done for Series 8. Did you like it or not? Or do you prefer my version? Just, let me know in the comments. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.